Put your hands together, make some noise for Darren, Loki McGarvey.
I never came to the decision to vote yes. It's something I would have instinctively done. All my life has been about, as a person, becoming independent from something, some form of harmful dependency. Sometimes it was through choice, sometimes I was kind of thrust into it. At all those junctures, I never knew what was going to happen on the other side there. Didn't have the luxury or that foresight. You just have to take the leap and you just have to do it. That's the way life is. That's how life works. Now in this country, in this Western civilization, see the security that they're telling you you may lose by doing your own thing. The financial security, the security from terrorism. Do you know that all that security is in place? Not to protect you from those things as if those things are inherently out to get you. It's in place to protect you from the implications of how this country behaves in those areas. So you've got the security financially. Why? Why do you need that security? Because we let bankers write the legislation. So we then need to build in security to deal with the implications of that. They say, what about poverty? Who's going to protect you from poverty? Of course, poverty is the biggest export of this kind of society. And so what they do is they don't look at poverty as if it's something that could be drawn down and eventually eradicated. No. Poverty is the big engine room of incentive. Poverty is the driver of economic growth. Of course, they used to make these arguments for slaves. These are the same arguments they used to make. The people back then, they could not foresee a society where slavery didn't exist. They couldn't even perceive it. At this present moment, what we have managed to do, right now, that buzz you all feel, that's what democracy actually feels like. We've woken democracy up. Every single sinew of the British state is in a perpetual spasm, a political convulsion. There's no protocol or precedent to deal with what is happening right now. And do you know why they're mobilising so quickly? I believe, not the people that are voting no, the people at the top of this society, is because they despise democracy. Like poverty, it's something to be managed. Now people in here, if you are undecided, it's difficult for me today to try and take a tone of persuasion because I've got a very bitter taste in my mouth of what I'm seeing in the news just now. Now even if you're voting no, you cannot tell me with a straight face that every single section of the British state is being mobilised to try and oppress and influence a democratic decision. This is unacceptable. Anybody in here voting no has to concede that. That is not a negotiable point for me. And so, assuming that you would rationally concede that because you have no other choice, then what you have to concede is, if it's no democracy for one side of the debate, there's no democracy for any of it. The debate exists in that cultural, political soup that we're all swimming in. So you want to vote no and endorse that. You want to vote no and say, do you know what? I accept that. I accept my role as no more than a consumer in this society. I revoke and renounce my critical thinking faculties. I revoke and renounce my citizenship because I'm happy with my lot. I'm happy with my lot. Bad news for you folks, you've not got an awful lot. And that goes for the pensioners as well. You've not got a long time to go, eh? Till Thursday. It's going to be an awful cold winter, innit? Maybe that's why the old folks don't like hip-hop. Hip-hop. Nah, What I'm doing is channeling the frustrations. What I'm doing is channeling the frustrations of the young people that I work with who are scoffed at constantly. Scoffed at constantly. Now see, my idea of a country that I want to live in, then, see, even if we did go bankrupt and we go independent, let it be because we chose to try and help people living in poverty. Let us break the bank by deciding we're going to feed the hungry families. Let us break the bank by deciding we're going to invest in an education system which doesn't just prepare people for poverty work, but also takes into account the aspirations of us as human beings, that we have intrinsic value. Now see, if you're doing really well economically, good for you. But you seem to have got confused with your corporate education provided by the state for free, by the way. You seem to have got confused. You see, what makes you human is your ability to empathise. Not your economic activity. Not your prestige. Not your status. That is a load of pish. And that's a technical term for anybody out there with problems with that kind of language. This tone for me is actually a bit unusual. I've spent 2 years of my life criticising the Yes campaign. And anybody in here who follows it, and I will tell you, that is what I have focused on. I've been holding them to account on issues of privilege, on issues of censorship by omission culturally. I see elements within the Yes campaign as an emerging power structure, an emerging media apparatus. And so I've seen it as my responsibility as an artist and as a citizen to test that apparatus now, before it inherits all the cultural capital in a new Scotland. So I cannot be accused of only looking at this one way. But these days, today, when I'm looking at my TV screen and the BBC are telling blatant lies about what's going on in the streets of Scotland, then I have to turn my attention to no. On this day, I have to turn my attention to the people who are voting no, and I want to warn them. I want to draw their attention to how futile it is to vote no, because independence is inevitable. It's inevitable, whether it happens on Thursday or no. It's inevitable. Get on the right side of the argument. Get on the right side of history. We can bicker about what kind of country we want later, but it is just a complete nonsense. A nonsense. It's junky rationale to think that by validating the British state, you're going to see any sort of improvement, any sort of social justice. You cannot rely on the people who peddle this pish for information. They're not actually a monolithic conspiracy. They're actually incapable of perceiving life anything outside a corporate paradigm. They cannot think any other way. But we are rising. We no longer accept those rules of engagement. They're so dumb and glib when they talk. They think that they can call us nationalists. The majority of us voting yes are not nationalists. The majority of us voting yes are not nationalists, are not communists. We're just people who have actually seen behind the curtain of this democratic simulation. What we see is a mindless consumer culture driving psychosocial anxiety, which fuels consumption. So if you're not feeling good about yourself, somebody's making an awful lot of money off of that. Have a wee think about the addict in your family, the person who doesn't know they're an alkie. Think about your ex-partner, or maybe a cousin or a sister with an eating disorder. Think about the pain people are going through because they are encouraged to focus relentlessly on their own self-interest. It's a no-sum game, folks. There is no other way to approach this society but collectively, with conscious, critical thinking individuals. That is the kind of society that we need to have. That is the kind of society I'm prepared to fight and die for. I'm just glad it's not came to that stage. But this kind of media bias, so blatant and brazen, that's the kind of stuff that makes people angry enough to take it to the next level. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Shame on the editors in there. I feel for some of the people I know that work in places like the BBC. I really do feel for them. It's been difficult figuring out which way to respond to this, because you don't want to demoralise the whole media apparatus. So this is an appeal for me, a citizen, a community activist, a person. People need to come forward. People need to start standing up and speaking out about this. It is absolutely obscene. It's an insult to our intelligence, and they're underestimating how deeply principled we are in these matters. We have chosen to look at our lives through a moral lens, not a corporate lens. So the rules to this game have changed. If people still want to vote no, fair enough. I understand there's a lot of subtle issues at play within people. This is a country steeped in theocracy, centuries of it. This is a country steeped in division and bigotry. But see if the only division that can be said about the referendum campaign is the fact that half the people are voting yes and half the people are voting no. That's the least fragmented form of division we have seen yet. So see if it is divided, good. If that's the truth of it, good. Then we're dealing with reality. Let's drop this pretense. Let's drop this fixation. We're building a false consensus, because that does not serve our interests. That serves the interests of the people who see you as an economic container, disposable, here to work until you die. Every millisecond of your life is factored in to decide whether you are productive enough to be deemed a human being. Enough of this. And I challenge anybody out there voting no, sticking in the mud, the thinking people, I challenge you to think again. Think again. And in the words of Joanne Lamont, Jobs! It's about Jobs! And Jobs and Jobs and Jobs. I'll finish with this, right? The day after Cameron was exposed for phoning up all the heads of all the main supermarkets, you know, the supermarkets that post themselves in the end of your housing scheme, bleed all the businesses dry, and then say, we're here to help the community by paying half the people that work here poverty wages. We don't refunnel any of our profits into that community, even though we use that community's land to make our business. The day after, he met with all the grocers. So it was another branch of your food distribution network. And they all went and sat round a table in Downing Street, picture taking, just to give the illusion of transparency, because he was so bloody brazen, going behind everybody's backs the day before on the phone to all his banker mates. And so the official cover for this was, we're meeting to discuss future opportunities for the young people of Britain. Does that not tell you everything you need to know? The future of the young people in Britain and the United Kingdom is to shut the fuck up and stack the shelves. Shut the fuck up and stack the shelves. Leave the other stuff to us. Leave the other stuff to us. Leave the other stuff to the really unexceptional white men. That's all I'm going to say, folks. Vote yes. Don't fuck about.
Ladies and gentlemen, some noise for Loki.